Hi, I'm Becca and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make these geometric canes. It's basically just using triangles in different colours, putting them in different formations, rotating them and just basically flipping them, and you can put them in lots of different ways. I'll show you how to create your own pattern so you can plan it out. I'll show you different ways of how to be able to create your triangles depending on what tools you've got with you. So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of things that you can do with this. You can make slabs, you can make beads, you can decorate things. There's lots of things that you can do with them. So let's get started and I'll show you how. Right, so I'm going to show you how to make the triangle pieces to go within your cane first, because there's different ways that you can do it. Probably the easiest one that you don't really need any tools for is just forming it yourself. Now, if you're making your full cane this way, you need to make sure that each of your triangles you've measured out the same amount of clay, so you will get the same length of it. But I'm just going to show you quickly each of the ways. So I'm just taking a little bit of this blue. Now, this is probably the least accurate, or depending on how straight you get your lines when you're reducing and things like that. So first of all, you just want to turn it into a log, get all the air out of it. Okay. Right, so I've got my bit of clay now, so I'm just going to pinch up the top and press against my work mat. This is glass, so it should stay in place with it, and I'm just going to keep pinching and turning. And you want to just get each side so it's at the same width, depth or height, whichever you want to call it, and then just make sure the ends stay in the same shape so they're nice and straight. Now, when I was doing the idea prep for the video, this was the first one that I tried in sort of small amounts of clay, and it wasn't my favourite way to do it, but if you've not got the tools, then you need to know how to do it. So I've just kept pinching that and getting it in. So like I said, it's not the perfect triangle shape that you'll get with the other ways that I'm going to show you. So that's just one way. Another way is to use plunger cutters. So if you've got these, you can get all sorts of different shapes of them nowadays. The main ones are sort of like flowers and things like that, but I've got these triangle ones. Now, they're in 3 different sizes in this set. Didn't clean it out last time. So depending on how big you want your cane is which size triangle that you use, and you just take the same cutter for every single slice that you're going to make. So I'm just going to go with a small one because I'm just showing you how I'm going to do it. So you just push down into your clay, and then you push the plunger out, and then you'll get a nice pile of triangles. So I've got 4 there. Move that out of the way now so it isn't focusing on it. Zoom in a little bit more. And all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to stack them, and that's it. Just make sure that they all keep within their lines. And just keep stacking until you've got the height that you want it to be. Right, so I've just got them stacked and they're all just lined up. That's all you need to do. So another way is to just use it, if you've got one of these mats that's got the markings on, just straighten off your clay and just use the lines as a guide. Okay. This is just so you can get them a little bit more accurate. So we're just going to do a different version of this. So I'm just going to take a 1/2 inch strip, because I'm just showing you how I'm going to do it, and then I'm just going to cut these the same way. So essentially we're creating squares first. So just use your lines to measure. Now if you've not got one of these glass mats, you could print off some graph paper and laminate it. I've got a tutorial on how to make your craft mat, so that's another option. So then now what I'm going to do is cut from corner to corner. Now this is a bit more of a wider triangle, so what I'll be doing is cutting it the other way as well. So if you just leave your pieces together and then you go the opposite corner like that, you get the same triangle as what you've got here, and then you just stack them up like we did with the ones that we used with the cutters. Okay? Oh, wrong way round. So the bigger you cut your squares will be how big your triangles are. So I've done them quite small, which probably ought to have done them bigger, but it's just a case of doing the same thing as what I've done with the cutters. So move them to the side again. So another thing that you can get is these geometric shaped cutters. This is a box that they came in, and this has got 3 different sizes of squares, and it's 1 1/4, 1 3/4 of an inch. So as you can see, you can cut out multiples of squares all at once. You can get different shapes, you can get triangles and things. This is just the one that I've got. I found that they're cheaper on AliExpress, Wish and places like that, but anywhere that sells sort of fondant cutters, they sell this sort of thing. So just keep an eye out for those when you're out. So I'm just going to take a different colour, and this will cut out a lot more squares for you a lot more quickly. Okay. And then I'm just going to smooth these further bits off the edge. It's not going to make too much of a difference with the cane because we're going to be reducing and things like that, so you don't have to do that, but if it bothers you, you know, that's all that you need to do. And then, like I've done with the plunger cutters, I'm just going to stack them, but I'm stacking them as a whole square rather than doing the little individual triangles. So this may be a little bit easier for you, and you'll get less distortion, I think. So stacking them up. There you go. So I've got a nice stack there. You can spend more time on getting them lined up. I'm just showing you quickly because I wanted to show you the different ways. And then what you want to do is, as we did when we've measured it out before on the cutting mat, you're just going to cut corner to corner and try and keep straight all the way down. Okay, so you could leave them as that way. Yeah, you could do. You can either just cut them in half or cut them into 4 like I've done with the other one. If you cut them into 4, then you'll get a longer cane, because you're essentially creating the same shape. You're just doing it different ways, you know, like with different sizes. So we've got our 4 there, and then lining them up. Okay, so then if you've got your glass mat or your work mat, you can just push them up against the glass just to make sure that they all meld together. Okay, so then I've got my first stack. Right, so the last way I'm going to show you is just by using my extruder. Again, this was in the fondant section, but you can use it for polymer clay. And you get these little discs that have got all different shapes, and they push them out in the different shapes what they are. So I'm going to take the triangle one. So the little disc just pops out. So you're just popping it on the inside of this. Just make sure you've got it in straight. And you just want to take however much amount of clay that you're going to use. So again, measure out the same amount for each of the colours that you're going to be using. And then you just want to put it into a log. I'm gathering all the bits up. Just want to make sure that there's no air pockets in there. Okay, give it a roll, and then make sure you've just wound it down enough, so just check that you've just left enough space on your inside, and just push the clay in. And then screw on the end, and then all you need to do is keep turning it, and you'll get very, very tiny triangle strip. Sorry for the squeaking. There was some WD-40 on it or something. It's not the nicest of sounds, but depending on how fine of a cane you're wanting to make, this might be the option for you. And then just put it off from there. As you can see, let's just trim that off a little bit. Now your clay has to be really, really well conditioned for it to come out absolutely perfect. Now mine could probably do with a little bit more conditioning for me to do this technique, but that's all it is. It's just basically making triangles in different ways. So I've got 3 different colours, which is 3 that I'm going to start off with, because that's the most basic way. So I'm just going to clean my mat, and then I'm going to bring in the pattern sheet and show you what I've got to do with it next. Right, so this is just a few patterns that I've drawn out on some geometric paper that's got really, really tiny triangles on. This was from W.H. Smith's, I think it was, but you can find free paper online to just print off. If I can find the link to a website that I've used in the past, I'll link it below. And this is just basically paper that's covered with tiny little triangles. Because they are so tiny, for the purpose of showing you, I've scaled up the size what I'm going to do. So the basic one, sorry, I think I've probably gone a little bit blurred there, but I think we're okay now. So the basic one is probably just 3 colours, and the bigger you make your triangle depends on how bigger you want to make your end cane. So as you can see here, I've done it in all different colours, just so that you can see how I've sort of sized up the triangles on it, because each one of these triangles has got 3 smaller ones in it with this paper that I've got. But you're building a pyramid, so you need to stack them in a way so they alternate the way around that they go. So these are the ones that I've got ready for the cane, but as you can see, that's why I've gone for colours that are really contrasting so that you can see what I'm doing. So you'd do that, and then you'd have one on top as well. If you want to have more and more colours in, you can just keep on going down, but each row you're adding on 2 extra triangles, and that's what brings it out so it's a little bit wider. The next part that I did was to just design one section of the hexagon that I'm going to be creating. Now, and this is just one simple one that I've done with 3 different colours. It's not the same colours as what I've coloured in, but it's just the same thing. You just pick out what different colours you want, and then you put it in together and you rotate it and you make it into the hexagon. So if you want to have a go at doing this, so I've not actually got my ruler. I'll use my trusty cutting blade. Right, so each of these individual triangles, I've done 2, 4, yeah, 6. So I'm just going down from one point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then across 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and then join them up. Okay, and then the next thing you need to do, we're just going to draw lines across. So every 2 triangles up, I'm going to go straight up, and then we're going to do the same on the other side. And turn it, so on all 3 sides you're just creating your triangles by going from point to point. So this is the triangle that will make up the whole cane. So the next part would be to turn that into a different pattern. So you would you'd plot out your points. So, oh no, I've gone to the wrong one there. So because you've got your triangle at the side now, you've got some sort of rough idea of where that one's going to go. So, and then to do the next side down, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here we go. And then we're going to come down the other side. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And then same again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got our 6 sections marked out there. And then just join all those up. And if you've ever done this sort of thing, you'll not have to watch me doing this. And it's something that I remember doing in junior school. Really, it's like just making pattern repeats. You know, with just different shapes and just knowing, you know, where to go. Right, so now we're going to go corner to corner. Or point to point, whatever you want to call it. And straight across. So then that gives us our 6 sections. So it's 6 of these in this. So now we need to create the other sections in for us to colour in to make our pattern. So like I did on this one, every 2 points, because I'm levelling it up, you know, like just making it a little bit bigger so it's easy for you to see, I'm just going to go on every point, every 2 points. So we've already got our middle one. Okay, and same again. And then finally the last way. There we go. So you've got your main triangle here, and then this is going to be formed out of our main triangle here. So if you have a look at the patterns that I've done, I've had my kids and my husband helping me colour these out. So you can make them more intricate and lots of different colours, but the basic one is probably just with 3 so that you can create a pattern. So this is with 3 colours. This one was with 4. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Is it 7? 1, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7 colours for this one. And then this one is 3 colours. And my son did this one, and he's used green, grey and white. And you can just make your triangles in different shapes to create a different sort of pattern, which I thought was really creative of him. He's not really sure of himself when he's colouring in and drawing things, but I was really impressed when he's come up with that on his own, and he also did this one as well. So it's just a case of colouring in your triangles and knowing which way you want them to go. Okay, so I'm going to do this one first. So I've got my 3 colours, and I need 3 of each of the sections. So let's just have a measure up, see how long we actually are. About 4 inches, I think. Now I've done it a lot bigger than I actually would do, because I'm not going to want that big bouquet in all different colours in the same thing, but I'm just doing it as the larger size so that it's easier for you to see on the camera. Okay, so I'm just going to eyeball it, really. So we want it into thirds. So if you want to measure it, make it into something that will cut into 3. Okay. So I'll just take our pattern back in. So we're going to start at the top. We'll have blue at the top. So then just underneath the top one we'll have green. So go that way. Then either side of that is yellow on the pattern, but I'm going to go this peachy colour on either side. Right, so and then on that next level you need to imagine your next colour down will be here. Let's just trim that off a little bit because I've cut it wonky, but that don't matter. Right, okay, so I'm going to be having it there. So I'm just trying to line it up and look in the monitor at the same time and look at the page as well. Right, so we've gone with that one green down there, so then we want green on either side here. There we go. We'll get there in the end. When you're trying to look at something from different angles, it can get a bit confusing. So we've got our pattern there. So I'm just going to cut off the bits that I've obviously over cut on, or not cut enough off in some cases. Okay, so we've got our triangle now. So as you can see here, that's our pattern. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reduce this down just by squeezing and pulling, just keeping it in that triangle shape, because that's the most important bit, is keeping it within that shape that you want. So if you've got an acrylic block, that'd be a good thing for you to press against the table. If you haven't got one of those, you could use a coaster, you know, that you put your drinks on. I'm trying to think what other things that you could actually use. Just anything that's basically flat, really, that you can just put even pressure on. I've not got my acrylic block with me at the moment, but that's probably what I'd use if we were doing any other ones. So I'm just going to reduce this down and make it small enough so that we can cut it into 6 sections. So I'll go off camera and do that, and I'll be back. Right, so I've reduced that down and I've cut off at the end. So at this end I've got a nice clean cut, but at this end it's sort of distorted a little bit. Don't worry too much about that, because once it's reduced down you probably won't even notice that anymore. So if it bothers you, just reduce a lot slower, more slowly than what I've done. I've probably done it a bit too quicker. than I should have done. So right, so I've reduced that down and I'm going to cut it into 6 sections. So I'm just going to cut it into 3 first and then half them. So I'm making 6 sections of 1/2 inch. So just so you know, if you're wanting to make something about the same size as what I'm doing. Okay. Now you just need to follow your pattern if you've made one. So as you can see, I've got here the red on either of the corners, so I've gone with blue. So I'm just going to take one blue section and then we're going to join it up with all the blue corners in the centre. So if you've got a little bit distorted, don't worry about it, just you can keep flipping around just so that you can get the best way of going. So I want to do that with the other pieces, so I'm just going to go do them in 3 sections to start with. Now if you cut your triangles into smaller ones, you wouldn't have to do all the reducing, you'd just basically just be able to build your cane up from scratch. This is just so that you can do it a little bit more quickly. That one's gone a little bit too big, so I'll slice that one down a bit. Okay. So you can just keep flipping them and seeing whichever is going to be the best way for you to go. Because all the way down the cane it'll slightly move, you know, all the way down. So it's just a case of just, you know, keep flipping them and trying. And now we're just going to set these all together into our hexagon. Just make sure you meet all your triangle points up. Excuse me. There we go. Then from that you would just keep reducing it, and then say if you wanted to make a slab, you could reduce it down and then just lay them together and just carry on making the repeated pattern, or you could just use it as a pattern to make some beads. There's lots of different things you can do with these ones. So that's just using 3 colours on their own. Now as you can see, I've been coming up with different colour ways of doing it. Now these are a couple of the practice ones that I did before I actually started filming. Now this one I did it so it was all in 7 different colours altogether. No, sorry, 9 in this one. I'm getting all mixed up. And I just wanted to show that how you could change it into a square. So this, I've just cut it in half, and then say if you wanted to flip it, you could do it that way, or you could keep the points together, or you can keep on going that way. It's totally up to you. So I think we'll go opposite. Okay, so we've got basically one of the 3 sections that we've made here, and then all you're doing is you're pushing these sides in, and rather than keeping it as a sort of diamond shape, we're going to turn it into a square, and that way you can make a different pattern than what you've got with this one. So just need to keep pressing it, and again if you push it into the mat, if you've got one that you're working on, just to make sure that your sides stay straight. And as you can see, we're getting more and more into just a square rather than that diamond shape. Now this is when an acrylic block really would come in handy, because that you can just keep rotating the cane and pressing it down with your acrylic block, because obviously that's got a nice flat side. I just wanted to show you how to do it with this tester cane that I did. So there you go, so I've got a different one. So it's just a case of you thinking of all the different coloured patterns that you want to do. Whereas this one, how many colours did I use on this one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different colours on this one. And that's a totally different look to what I've got here, which has just got 3 colours. But it's just a case of you designing the pattern as how you want it to go. So like this one, my son's done the triangles opposite for the colouring. So one option that you can do is when you get it to the when you've reduced it down into your triangle sections and you've cut it up, you can, it's stuck together now, you can basically take the sections and you can flip them and turn them and just make them into a different pattern, you know, to what you know, the original one was. So say if you took this one cane here, you know, like with just your 3 colours, you wouldn't have as much variant as you would with something that's like this that's got more colours on it. But it's just a case of just turning and flipping and seeing which way you like to do it. One thing that you can do is to test the colourways that you want in. You can just take your cutters or your squares or just cut them out on the mat like I've showed you, or your extruder, and just cut some slices and just lay them out into the pattern that you're thinking of, just to see whether if it'd work or whether if you like it. If you don't want to do it that way, you can just do this. You know, you can just colour your triangles in on a piece of paper. Now if you're wanting to be able to flip them, you know, and you just want to be able to, like, say if you wanted to take this one. This is one that took me a little bit more figuring out. My husband had to help me with this one. I wanted it so that I got these red 3 going in the same, but I wanted the other ones in all different colours, and we've had to rotate the triangle and flip it at the same time, just so that we've got that repeated pattern going round, because in all of these ones they've all got a solid colour in the centre. Now if you're wanting it to have a varied colour, then that is when you've got to rotate your sections and flip them. So it's just a case of figuring out which way you want to put them. So this is just a good way for planning, but like I said, if you just cut some slices or use your cutters, cut them out, and then you can figure out what you're going to do with them. Now these will just need reducing and putting some gold leaf on or something so they don't stick to everything. Now I've got my little bit of scrap clay from the ends here. If you've been watching me for the past couple of months, I've done a few scrap videos and I've learnt my lesson, and I am not going to let it build up like I did last time. But with this sort of cane ends, you can actually cut a lot of this down and put it just back into the normal clay that you've got. So because it's got a nice straight line, you can just cut off, you know, the separate section pieces, and that way you're still keeping a lot of the colour, and you're going to get a lot less, say, wastage as such. It's not wastage, you can actually do a lot with it. There's some videos that I've done, you'll see, I'll link them in the description box. But what I'll do now is I'll just go through and cut off as much as I can for each of the 3 colours that I've used, and then pop it back in here, and I've got it for another cane. So rather than me having to have loads of scraps for me to use up and do different things with, I can just recycle it and put it back into the pile. So just have a think before you scrunch it all up and you think, oh no, that's totally wasted and I can't use it. See if you can separate your colours off. That's just one of the things that I'm doing now, because when I did the scraps video, I'd left my scraps and I had got loads and loads and loads of scraps up, and I wanted to see what I could get out of them. And if I'd have just thought that process, I could have just cut out a lot before I've chopped it up and made other things with it. So that's probably the biggest lesson that I learned doing all the scraps, but there's lots of fun things that you can do with them. So with the squares, again, it's just going to be a case of slicing them and rotating them and making the different patterns. It's just a different way of doing it to the hexagons. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and it's inspired you to have a go at making some geometric shaped canes. If you've got any questions, pop them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them as best I can. If you like the video, if you could give me a thumbs up, that'd be appreciated. And if you've not subscribed, if you consider subscribing, that'd be appreciated too. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.